I am Sure Sports. You know me there, from coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is Righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get your sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am Sure Sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am Sure Sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know the game play, that me not say it. If me never seen a game, me not know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Nick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices, add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I am Pioneer, and we are back after a long layoff. We are back with another edition of our series we call Around the NBA. It's been a while we've been here, people. And as you know, we are in the middle. As a matter of fact, some would argue that we are close to the end of the NBA season. We are in the finals. We have the Golden State Warriors up against the Boston Celtics. Last night was the conclusion of Game 5, which went to Golden State. We have had an interesting series in this final. Boston winning Game 1, Golden State winning Game 2, Boston winning Game 3, Golden State winning Game 4, and last night, a very, very epic game. Golden State coming out on top to be up 3-2 in the series. So we are going to be looking back at the entirety of the NBA finals. We're going to be looking at game by game. We're going to be looking at the ramifications of some of the performances. We'll be looking at the possible winner of the finals MVP. And with me this morning, I have my brethren, G-Star, the premier basketball analyst in Jamaica, along with yours truly. G-Star, I think we have set ourselves apart and above the rest. Not blowing our own trumpets or anything like that, but I think it's clear and Paul to see that you and I have kind of set ourselves apart when it comes to the basketball discussion. We are also expected to be joined by the man, Preacher, who is a man who I rate is a basketball acumen highly. All right, so G-Star, what a game last night in Brethren.
Yeah, excellent game. It was a pool party. You know what I said?
Yeah, it was somewhat of a pool party. Golden State coming up trumps. I must say to people, before we get into the game-by-game analysis, after Game 3 of this finals, I made a prediction. Quite unpopular, I must say. There are a lot of persons who thought I was crazy when I made that prediction. When I said Boston Celtics wouldn't win another game in the series. Boston having won Game 3 in somewhat of a convincing fashion, you would see that. But in watching the series and knowing this Golden State team, there was something that I saw that Golden State had figured out after Game 3, and I know that.
Which was?
All right. So firstly, I think they would figure out how they were trying to defend Steph, all right. Draymond Green had a bad Game 1. Draymond Green had a bad Game 3. Everybody knows that Draymond Green is my player, probably my favorite player in the NBA. And there's something about Draymond Green that has let me know that he wouldn't have gone through the entirety of the NBA Finals and not come up trumps. There is also a school of thought, which is quite true, that when Draymond Green plays well, let me say welcome to Preacher, who is joining us before I finish elaborating on that point. Preacher, welcome.
Yeah, man, big up.
Welcome for
Yeah, man, welcome. Preacher, with us here, kind of, we're gonna be looking at the finals in its entirety. We're gonna be looking at some of the ramifications of, some of the games, and do a little preview on how we see the rest of the finals going. Looking at finals MVP, but I was kind of just giving a little synopsis, Preacher, of my prediction after Game 3 when I said I don't think Boston will be winning another game in this series. And as I was saying, I'm just saying to G-Star that watching Game 3, I could see that there was things that Golden State was figuring out. And as I was saying, Draymond Green, I wasn't expecting after a bad Game 3. I was expecting Draymond to start coming to the party in Game 4. He was somewhat paltry in Game 4, but true to form, he came through last night. At the beginning of last night's game, when I saw how Draymond came out, I was saying to persons at an early stage that when Draymond plays like this, it's almost impossible for Golden State to lose. It's very rare that Draymond Green has a good game, an impactful game that Golden State loses. He was quite impactful last night. He started out early. He started scoring early last night. But more importantly, you could see his energy on the defensive end. He was contesting everything. There was, in the beginning, in the first quarter last night, there was nothing easy being given to Boston. Golden State was out to an early lead. Boston, true to form, like the team that they are, made a rally last night in the third quarter, actually took the lead. Golden State, threw a big pull shot, went into the fourth quarter with a 1-point lead. And the rest, as they say, is history. Golden State is now up 3-2 in the series, and it is my expectation that they are going to close out in Game 6. But before we get to all of that, gentlemen, let's kind of just preview the 5 games that have elapsed so far in the finals. Let's asking those on the chat to like the stream firstly, share the stream, all right, and feel free to make a comment. All right, we welcome your participation. We welcome the interaction. I want to welcome Eddie Guna to the stream early. Eddie Guna is saying, Wiggins. I know you guys don't mention his impact. I hear Green impact. We'll get into that, man. We'll get into that, Eddie Guna. We'll get into all of that. I mentioned Draymond because I was talking about the broader picture of the series and how I saw it going forward. But Wiggins, indeed, Eddie Guna, has been quite impactful on this series. But we'll get to that. So, Preacher, we're going to start with you. Tell me how you see the series going so far. I don't know if you want to break it down game by. It would be good if I break it down game by game. And
well, I mean, I'll leave that to G-Star to break it down game by game.
All right, you're leaving it to G-Star. But just give me a synopsis on the series, how you see it going.
Well, I mean, as anticipated, it has been a very close series. Boston came into the series ranked number one defensively. I mean, depending on which ranking you use, because in another set of rankings, the Golden State Warriors are actually the number one defensive team. But you expected Boston to present some challenges for Golden State because of their length, because of their athleticism, because of what they can do as a team in terms of defense. And we've seen that Golden State's points per game has been the lowest that it has been throughout the playoffs in the finals. So the Celtics are doing something right defensively. On the other side of it, we underestimated, or some people underestimated, how good the Warriors were as a defensive team. And we have seen that whenever the Warriors as a team plays collectively well defensively, they are able to hold the Celtics to under 100 points. And in all three games that the Warriors have won, they have held the Celtics to under 100 points. So, I mean, it has been defensively one of the better series to watch in terms of what the coaches do in adjusting and how they're guarding the players. I use a case in point. Both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are very strong going to their right. Mm-hmm. Very strong going to their right. When they put the ball on the floor and they go right, more times than not, they score. Mm-hmm. Last night, we saw both Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins forcing them left, forcing them to go to their weaker hand whenever they were driving to the basket. This is how the playoffs are. You make adjustments. The scouting report is there. You do what you need to do. You make the adjustments game after game. And so it has been a good defensive matchup to watch. Stars come to the party, and stars ultimately help to lift teams over the hump. And Steph Curry has been nothing but a star in this series. I mean, he had one of his worst performances last night, and we understand why. He obviously didn't have the legs. So a lot of his shots were short, and if you know anything about shooters, good shooters shoot from their leg up, right? So Steph never had the legs last night, so off 9 from 3, but his presence on the court was still significant, because his presence on the court and the way Boston opted to play defense created more opportunities for the people like Wiggins, people like Klay. So Steph has been amazing. I know we're going to have a discussion about the MVP later on, but I mean, Steph is leading the MVP race right now. I've said it before that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum must play good. Both of them must play well for Boston to win the series. And what we've seen is one has a good game today, one has a good game tomorrow, one has a good first half, one has a good second half. Both of them have not necessarily played well concurrently in a game. In game 3, we saw that. We saw both of them coming out and playing well throughout the game for the most part. That has not happened consistently enough. And they're going to need those two guys to come good in game 6 if they're going to have a chance of getting to a game 7. All in all, it has been a good series to watch. I think the major difference so far in the series has been the fact that Steph Curry has been playing lights out. If Steph Curry was average, the Golden State Warriors would not be winning the series. We can give props to Looney, we can give props to Wiggins, we can give props to Klay, but if Steph was not Steph over the last 5 games, the Golden State Warriors would not be where they are today. So I'll leave it there, because I know G-Star is going to go into some of the X's and O's. I want to give him enough time to do that.
All right, before you get into that, G-Star, I want to welcome everybody into the stream. Welcome Eddie Guna. All right, welcome Michael Woodburn. And I want to welcome Linoel Sims. Give thanks, Linoel Sims. Yeah, man, you know what I go. We're not take it unto ourselves. We like when the public give it to us. You know what I say? So we give thanks. G-Star, who I think is a basketball guru. I want to also welcome Mr. Special Edition. Mr. Special Edition is saying that Wiggins had a great game last night. He did. He indeed did. G-Star, we're going to allow you.
Yeah.
if you want to, as
They
preacher
call
said,
in Golden State.
so
In Golden State, they call them two-way weights. All right.
yeah,
And back in the day, they call him Maple Jordan. For anybody who don't know, that's Andrew Wiggins, right? Two-way weights. Because he's one of the better. He's turned himself into one of the better two-way players in the league. Yes, he did have a great game last night. So what I find in the series is, if you're a Boston fan, right? I think coaching in general in the NBA has gone to the dogs, right? I really believe that. And the reason why I'm saying this, when you watch the Boston Celtics, a team that is in the finals, right? What do they do besides one-on-one basketball? They may screen for somebody at the top, for Jalen Brown or for Jason Tatum. But all you really see is one-on-one basketball from the Boston Celtics. So when people say that, why is Jason Tatum shooting an air ball in the fourth quarter? Well, it's very difficult to play one-on-one basketball for 48 minutes, right? So if you're a Boston Celtics fan, you want to see them run some more plays, some kind of continuity offense. I hear people screaming, "Oh, in the fourth quarter, there's no ball movement for Boston. There's no ball movement." They've been doing the same thing the whole game. The shots just aren't dropping in the fourth quarter, right? You tell me the difference between the offense in the first quarter and the offense in the fourth quarter. The only difference is that they're tired, right? And for me, why I chose Golden State Warriors, well, I'm a Warrior fan, but additionally, there's something missing from the Boston Celtics. And what brought me to that conclusion is that they should have beaten up on Miami. And for that series to come down to a Jimmy Butler 3 at the end, that should never happen. That tells you that there's some serious flaws in Boston. So moving forward now, I think the Milwaukee Bucks, if they were totally healthy, would have been here. They're not, so let's talk about Boston versus the Warriors. What I see from the Warriors in this series, I see that when the Warriors play well, it's because of force. We're hearing those two words in this series a lot: physicality or physicalness and force, right? Boston blow them out of the water in the fourth quarter. Why? They were getting all wide open shots. In the third game, Boston totally dismantled them in terms of rebounding, heart, and hustle, right? I think that the Warriors bounced back in game 2 and in game 4 with force. And additionally, last night they played well with force. And where you can look at the force is on the defensive end for the Warriors. There wasn't anything easy for Jason Tatum. There wasn't anything easy last night for Jalen Brown. Even Al Horford. Did Al Horford get any easy baskets last night? Everything that the Boston Celtics got, they had to work for. Now, on the other side, the Warriors benefited from a lot of the Celtics turnovers. I think there's a stat in this series when Boston has less than 16 turnovers, they're like 13-2. When they have more than 16 turnovers, they're like 2-7. Don't quote me on the exact stat, but it's around about that figure. So turnovers for Boston Celtics is a barometer for success. They had 18 last night.
Mm-hmm.
But generally though, we can say, when teams are successful, it's what one team did, and you can say what the other team didn't do. So I can say that, boy, the Warriors took care of the ball last night. I think they had less than 10 turnovers. They shot horribly from the field. Horribly from three points.
Actually had 6 turnovers last night, which by Warriors
6
standard
turnovers.
is excellent by Warriors.
That's exceptional. That's exceptional. So 18 turnovers to 6. It's going to be hard to win on somebody else's home floor when you're minus 12 in turnovers. And if you look, the Golden State Warriors have been punishing the Celtics on points of turnovers in this series. So those are critical statistics even for Game 6. The Warriors shot 9 of 25 last night from 3-point line. Steph shot 0 of 9 from 3-point line. Wiggins, even though he had a good game, he shot 0 of 6 from 3-point line.
9 of 40 actually, in a G-Star.
Yeah, 9 of 40. That's what, about 4%, 23%.
22.5%.
So sorry, 23%. So moving forward, if you're the Boston Celtics, Steph had a horrible game, right? Wiggins was 0 of 6 from 3. Draymond Green still hasn't hit a 3 for the series, right? And they still lost the game. So mentally, moving forward, the Boston Celtics have to be frazzled. They don't have no choice. Mentally, they have to be somewhat broken down. So moving forward now, honestly, for Game 6, I think that the Warriors are going to put it on them in Game 6 personally, because I think that Draymond is due to make a 3 in the series. He's 0 for about 11 in the series from 3. Draymond is going to make 1 or 2 next game because he shot the 3. I heard the commentators say it last night, Jeff Van Gundy, or was it Mike Breen? No hesitation. He shot the 3 in the corner with no hesitation. Draymond Green, I'm talking about.
It's the first one he took.
Yeah, that's excellent news. Sometimes it's not about how many you make, it's about how many you take, right? So Draymond is gonna hit he's gonna hit at least 1 3. Wiggins is not gonna go off 6. Steph is not gonna go off 9, right? And Clay is kind of rolling into shape. Jordan Poole has to feel a little bit better about himself. So moving forward in Game 6, I'm gonna have the Warriors. I'm gonna have the.
We're gonna get there. We'll get there. We're gonna get there. I gotta get to the predictions and
so keep it moving.
All right. So big up Linoal Sims. He's checking in from Cayman. Welcome, Linoal. It's good to have you, Bridget. It's good to have the new persons on the stream. I want to say welcome to Pagan 180, who is one of our long-time general, who is always here with us. I want to also bless up Horace Holmes, countryman. Give thanks. I want to answer a question. Mr. Special Edition is asking, I put it to you two gentlemen. Is there a chance that Boston can win the next 2 games? I know you just went there, G-Star, so I'm going to allow you a chance. There's always a chance, but give your opinion, G-Star, and your analysis as to, do you give Boston a chance of winning the next 2 games?
All right, of course, I'm going to give them a chance. That's why they're playing the game, and that's why I'm watching the game. If Boston has 0 chance, I wouldn't watch the game. But put
it in a percentage, G-Star. So you give them a 20% chance, a 10% chance, a 30% chance of winning the next.
I'm gonna give them a good 35 to 40% chance. They're playing at home, the Boston Garden. The road here
the next 2 games. You said we're not G-Star. The question is,
the next 2.
Is there a chance that Boston can win the next 2 games, not just Game 6, but the next?
20%, 20%, or even 15% if they can win the next 2, right? But I don't like to go to Game 7 without, it's 1 game at a time. So let's talk about Game 6. You know what I'm saying? Boston for Game 6, what I believe that they have to do, clearly they're gonna have to cut down their turnovers. That if the coach, that's the first thing that they have to speak about. Jason Tatum has been sloppy. Marcus Smart has been sloppy, and Jaylen Brown last night was extremely sloppy. I think Draymond's defense, I thought, got to him last night, right? And Draymond's length got to him last night. But playing in the Boston Garden, I definitely believe that they have a chance. But the role players are going to have to play better. They got nothing from Derek White last night. They got nothing from Al Horford. They got nothing from Grant Williams. And then Robert Williams, I didn't even look at the stats, but I don't think Robert Williams had 10 rebounds or 8 rebounds last night. So they're going to need their others, as Shaq would say, to play better. Jaylen Brown's going to have to play better. But how they play better is by getting more of their players involved and with less turnovers. So more assists, less turnovers. But Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I'm not looking necessarily for points. I'm looking for more playmaking with less turnovers. And that's how they win. In
Robert Williams actually had 8 rebounds last night with 10 points, 2 assists.
Yeah, no.
Preacher, give me your opinion on how you see it.
Well, I mean,
if you give Boston, give me a percentage, Preacher, as to how much chance to give Boston in winning the next 2 games.
to quote a very infamous caller on a radio show, the probability is 50-50, man. It's 50-50. It's either they do it or they don't do it. But anyway, in all seriousness though, prior to last night, Boston had never lost back-to-back games since, I can't even remember when.
Late January, early February.
Right, and they didn't lose a back-to-back game in the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors have not lost back-to-back in the playoffs either, right? Mm-hmm. So it has happened, so it can happen. The problem that Boston are gonna have is that the Golden State Warriors are rounding into form. Mm-hmm. So Klay Thompson is the Klay Thompson, at least offensively, that Klay Thompson has been throughout his playoff history. He's averaging the same numbers, same amount of assists, same amount of rebounds as he normally does. So offensively, Klay's back. He's probably about 75% defensively. Wiggins has found himself in the series. As the series continues, Wiggins.
Preacher, last night you said 70%, right? What would you give his grade last night for defense in terms of the old Klay to nowadays?
Well, I mean, last night he had a very, very good game defensively. I would give him about 90%. But remember I think
he's talking over at this guy, 75% back.
75% in the
I know he is, but I'm just talking last night. 90%. All right.
He was very good last night. In fact,
excellent.
The Golden State Warriors as a team were excellent defensively last night. And that is Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is not a very good one-on-one defender. So you have to measure.
He played decent team defense last night. Yeah,
right. So you have to measure his defensive work within the context of what the team is doing schematically. But I'd say this. So that's the problem for Boston. Boston's problem is Golden State is getting better as the series progresses, meaning Golden State's players. Steph had an off game, and Steph will be better.
That's what.
Now, if Klay plays the way he's playing, if Wiggins plays the way he's been playing, and Steph plays the way, I don't see Boston winning. But you made a good point, G-Star. 18 turnovers, you're going to lose the game most nights. So if they can reduce those turnovers, if they can get the others to play bigger, and somehow I'm scratching my head because I'm wondering if Udoka has kind of moved away from what he started the series with. At the beginning of the series, you notice not Williams the third, the other Williams. Grant Williams,
yes.
Grant Williams was playing more minutes. Grant Williams was actually incorporated earlier in the game. Grant Williams was helping to spread the floor. Grant Williams' minutes have significantly decreased. And if you ask me, I think Grant Williams could have been an X factor for the Boston Celtics because he has physicality, he has size, he can shoot the corner three very well, and he provides them with another body to put on Steph or Klay. But they have not been using him over the last 2 games much. I haven't seen him much in the game. So, do I think they're going to win the next 2? No. I had said that I think it's going to go 7 games, so they might win 1, but they're not going to win 2. That's just how I see. No.
For me,
before you go, Pioneer. I just want to say one thing. Because Preacher just brought it to my attention. It's something that I noticed, but I just didn't say it. He's talking about the fact that the Boston Celtics started out with a big lineup. They have a big front line in terms of Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and Al Horford. 3-man rotation, right? That's how they've been playing for the whole playoffs, right? And for some reason in the finals, he's going. You'll hear Jeff Van Gundy say, "I like this lineup." That's one of the few times I disagree with Jeff Van Gundy, right? When he's talking about Robert Williams and they put in Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jalen Brown, and Jason Tatum, right? Or they put Al Horford. So they have one big man and basically four guards, right? What I don't understand is I've seen teams try to do this to Golden State for years. They try to match up small with Golden State, but Golden State small players are better than your small players. So if you try match up small with Golden State, you're actually doing exactly what Golden State wants you to do. You know what I'm saying? So that you may lose with a big lineup, sure, but you cannot match Golden State small for small. You have to beat Golden State playing big. As Preacher said, put in Grant Williams more, play Robert Williams more with Al Horford. Keep that big lineup going. Because believe me, what did Derek White score last night? Derek White probably scored 2 points. He wasn't a factor. So when I'm a Golden State fan and I see that lineup, I'm actually happy.
I want to start my thing by responding to Pagan 180. Pagan 180 is saying Draymond Green is clearly just a role player. I think we need to take him down a tier and re-evaluate his Hall of
Fame prospect.
And that is very wrong. Trust me, that's why I disagree, Pagan 180. You see, the point G-Star just made is the reason why Draymond Green is so effective and so efficient and so critical to what Golden State Warriors has been and what they do. All right, G-Star just mentioned Golden State playing small. Draymond Green playing as a small ball center allows the Golden State. Draymond Green is matching up with a Robert Williams who is 3 or 4 inches taller than him. There are not many players with that kind of versatility in the league. Pagan 180. Draymond Green's impact and effectiveness is not necessarily measured in the box score. He has had three awful games in this final so far. For me, that is not the norm. Draymond Green is my player. I've followed his career, watching him. I'm probably his harshest critical time too. So he has had a subpar finals to date. But as is evident last night, when he comes out with the energy, and I'm going to use the word that G-Star used, which is a word that has been bandied about a lot, the energy and the force that he played with last night, when he comes out with that kind of attitude and that kind of energy, it's hard for Golden State Warriors to lose. And it will not necessarily reflected in the numbers. But it's the shot, it's the deflections, it's the shots that he redirects. It's just his presence in the paint and the energy he plays with. Last night, as G-Star said, I don't know if it was Preacher who said that, last night there was nothing easy for the Boston Celtics. In the first half, the Boston Celtics got absolutely no easy buckets. Everything was worked for, everything was hard for them. And even though Golden State was having a woeful shooting night in the first half, they were up by 12 at the half. And a lot of that was because of Draymond Green's defensive presence. So in terms of re-evaluating his Hall of Fame, for me, Draymond Green is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Who knows? They might keep him out at the first ballot, but he's definitely going into the Hall of Fame. That for me, that goes without question. As to my prospects, my prediction and prospect for the rest of the season, for the rest of the series, as I said, after Game 3, and this is after Boston went up 2-1 in the series, I said on air and publicly that Boston wouldn't win another game in this series. All right, we're at 3-2 right now. A couple of things I'm looking at for Game 6. The first one is Steph Curry's 0-for-9 shooting performance in Game 5. As Draymond said last night in his post-game interview, Steph Curry is going to be livid, breaking his 232-game streak of making a 3-point in every game. 133 games in the postseason. He's gonna come out guns blazing in game 6. There is a thing that we call Game 6 Clay, and there's just there's an image that keeps rotating in my mind. I remember Klay Thompson when he was coming back from injury, and he was very close, and they were interviewing. He was saying, "Man, I want to win a championship so bad." I heard it and felt the thirst and the hunger in Klay Thompson's voice and his demeanor. And trust me, we are gonna see Klay Thompson in full effect in game 6. Andrew Wiggins, coming off that game that he had last night, is supposed to be swelling with confidence right now. And G-Star mentioned Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole, success does this to young players and role players. It puts a pep in their step and it amps up their performance. Draymond, Steph, Klay, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, I'm expecting big games. I said this when the series was 2-0. It was 2-2. Golden State was going to win game 5, and they are going to Boston to punk Boston in game 6. I think they are going to blow up Boston in that closeout game. And as I predicted, my predictions before the series was Golden State in 6, possibly 5. When Boston won game 1, I said I maintained my pick of Golden State in 6, possibly 7. But with where we are at right now, I'm saying Golden State in 6. I give Boston 15 to 20% chance of winning game 6. I give them probably 10% chance of winning the next 2 games back to back. All right, so.
Well, Pioneer, if I can just chime in. Listen, the one thing that Boston knows is that they can afford to be desperate because they're playing for their lives pretty much. Yes. So they can go out there and they can afford to play with desperation, right? Now, Golden State doesn't want to play a game set. We can all agree. Golden State does not want to play a game set.
Ideally, they don't.
There's a sense in which psychologically Golden State will have that as a pressure factor, right? They don't want to lose the game. They don't want to go back to Golden State. The Celtics, people are expecting, we're not necessarily expecting the Celtics to win. If I'm Udoka, I'm saying to them, if I told you at the beginning of the season that you would be down 3-2 in the NBA Finals with a chance to go home and tie the series, would you take it or leave it? That's my message to them, because at this point in time, you have nothing to lose. You absolutely have not. Just go out there and just be desperate, and knowing the kind of players that they are. Draymond Green, you say, is the force. The key to Boston winning that game 6 is not going to be Tatum. It's not going to be Jaylen Brown. As much as I said they need to play well, it's going to be Marcus Smart. It's going to be Marcus Smart. It's going to be Marcus Smart's energy, Marcus Smart's force in starting the game, like Draymond start game 5, to bring everybody else along. So that's probably the one thing that I think gives them that little, glimmer of hope. That we have nothing to lose. We're desperate. We're going to come out. We're going to fight. And Golden State will be thinking, oh my God, we can't afford to go to a game 7.
That desperation for me, in a preacher, works both ways. Sometimes desperation works in a positive way, and sometimes desperation works in a way where it unravels you, it makes you helter-skelter. And we're talking about turnovers. There's just something that tells me that Golden State has this game 6. There's just something that tells me that all of the factors that, and let me read a couple of the comments. Let me say welcome to Kareem Grant, who just spoke of game 6 clear that I mentioned earlier. And I want to welcome to Michael Nemard. Michael Nemard says, respect to the panelists, but Boston will, I'm thinking he's saying, will win 4-3 despite all the odds. Michael Nemard, you sound like a Boston Celtic fan, or you're supporting Boston Celtic in this final. But after last night's game, there's a little I saw in last night's game that give me any kind of encouragement or any hope that Boston can win a game 6 and eventually win this series. Golden State has gotten it together. You know what is kind of ironic is that I listened to Steve Kerr, and I think it was after game 2, after they won in game 2. He spoke about early in the season when they didn't have their full squad together. And he spoke about still trying to get the rotations right. We have seen people like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, who got meaningful minutes in the Dallas series in the conference final, not see a minute in this final just yet. So Steve Kerr, and I have often times during this final being very critical of Steve Kerr for one, leaving out Looney, for example, in a game 1 in the fourth quarter. Again, leaving out Looney in game 3 in the fourth quarter. He himself, after game 4, I've been critical about him playing Iguodala. He played Iguodala in game 1, in game 1 in the fourth quarter also. But all things are coming for me. All things are coming together, right, for the Golden State Warriors now, preacher. I can see. I think Steve Kerr now will, and trust me, his coaching acumen will be on the line now if he hasn't basically seen a picture of the lineup that he needs to be using in this final going into game 6. Obviously, as I said, Steph, for last night's game, I was advocating for him to use the youngsters in the second quarter or the end of the first quarter and save Steph and Clay's leg, considering that they had played big minutes in game 4. He went away from that. He chose Iguodala. He chose Otto Porter. But for me, going into game 6, a motivated Steph. There are 3 days between games, 2 full days between games, plus the travel time. I think Golden State will be rested and in prime condition for game 6. And trust me, I know Golden State, there's a time when they play this rhythmic basketball, and that is what I'm expecting to see in game 6, preach. And as I said, it could happen, but I give Boston a very little shot in winning the series, and I give them very little shot in winning game 6.
Well, I mean, I do agree with you, and I said it earlier that the problem Boston is going to have is that Golden State, the players are getting better as the series progresses, and not Steph now, because Steph has been good from the get-go. But you see, when you watch game 5, there's something else that stood out to me. Boston started to react.